Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to lecture number 9, part 1. This is the classification of applications based on the broader classification like domestic refrigeration. Refrigeration is used for domestic purpose, commercial, industrial, marine and transportation, and refrigerated storage. Let me give few insights about each application. When it comes to domestic, all of us know most of the many houses have refrigerator, household refrigerator, home freezers are there. Then under commercial refrigeration, we have the retail stores, restaurant, hotels, malls, shopping complex, etc. I have just mentioned only a very few important points. So when it comes to household refrigerator, which is available in many of the houses, some of them are the capacity may be 165 liters, some of them may be 220 liters. Earlier we used to have about, if you take 20 years back or 25 years back, most of the refrigerators are of single door type. But in the last couple of decades, 1 or 2 decades, the freezer compartment of the refrigerator has been provided with a separate door, whereas the lower portion of the refrigerator that forms the major portion of the refrigerator body that has a separate door. So in the freezer compartment, people used to store ice cream. If you want to make ice cubes, meat items, chicken, fish, etc. So items which require the frozen conditions, normally such items are stored in the freezer compartment. Let us see about the domestic application of refrigeration in detail. If we take fruits and vegetables, most of the fruits and vegetables are stored, the temperature range from 0 to 10 degrees centigrade. That is between 0 and 10 degrees centigrade. Most of the fruit and vegetables. The storage temperature is 0 degree to 10 degree. And if you take the fruits and vegetables, especially in our country, lots of fruits and vegetables are produced, but we don't have sufficient storage facility, like in terms of cold storage. We don't have sufficient cold storage facility, because of which lots of food items are getting wasted. This refrigeration, especially when it comes to the food item, it starts from the post-harvest period to storage. The refrigeration starts from post-harvest period or time to storage. If we take the food item, generally what is the reason for the food item to get spoiled? It is mainly because of two factors. One is the bacteria and another one is the enzyme. So the food items get spoiled due to these two, due to the presence of bacteria and enzymes. When we store the food items at a reduced temperature or in a controlled environment, this can be the wastage or the spoilage can be reduced. I mean, it can be minimized. So the bacteria and the enzyme which causes the food spoilage, it is reduced when the food items are stored in the controlled environment. Number one. Second thing is the condition of the suppose if we take fruits and vegetables. So the moisture content, that is the water content present in the fruits and vegetables, it varies from one item to another item. There may be some group of fruits or vegetables which may be having similar humidity level. Later in the subsequent lectures, we will be seeing the storage temperature and the humidity that is required for different items, especially when we are designing the cold storage in the later half of the subject. The storage condition depends upon two factors. Number one, the moisture content present in that product, and second thing is the condition under which it has been stored. So the storage, the product which is stored, it depends upon two factors. At the time of storage, what is the condition of the product? And at the time of storage, what is the percentage of humidity or water content present in that product? Now, as I said before, the storage temperature of the fruits and vegetables are 0 to 10 degrees centigrade. So let us take dairy. Initially, the milk are stored in bulk coolers. Initially, milk is stored in the bulk coolers. Milk is stored in bulk coolers. In the temperature range of say 10 to 15 degrees centigrade. 10 to 15 degree centigrade. Before the milk is pasteurized, before the milk is transported for pasteurization process. Before it is pasteurized. The pasteurization process, I mean, it involves heating of the milk up to say 60 to 70 degrees centigrade and further cooling. So finally, it is stored around somewhere else around 5 to 7 degree centigrade. 5 to 7 degree centigrade. And if we take ice cream storage temperature, normally it is minus 25 degree centigrade. Ice cream. Meat is stored at this temperature if it is on a longer term. For a longer term. When it comes to dairy, I would like to add one more point here. So initially the milk is stored in the bulk coolers, then before it is transported for a pasteurization process, then finally it is stored. If you take the dairy, the demand for the milk is normally more in the morning compared to the evening time. Normally milk arrives at 2 times in a day, morning and evening, where the supply to the load is more in the morning compared to the evening. So what happens during the lean period, like when the load is less, so the refrigeration plant is used to produce ice, which can be further later used by melting during the peak season. So in dairy, the load is more in the morning and less in the evening. Less in the evening. This it's a very important point. So to manage the peak load, the refrigeration plant during the lean period, it will be used to manufacture ice, which can be used further by melting. And when it comes to, suppose if you want to store meat for a shorter term, we can use a store around 0 degrees centigrade or something like that. Okay, so around 0 degrees centigrade for a short. The other dairy items like butter, curd, cheese, etc. Most of these items are stored almost in the same temperature range, like we store this one 0 to 10 degree centigrade. In fact, some of the chocolates or candy, okay, chocolates are stored between say 5 to 10 degree centigrade. What happens? Not all chocolate, some chocolate, if we don't store it in a controlled environment, it the chan there are chances that it will become sticky. To avoid that one, so some variety of chocolates, some kind of chocolates, candy are stored in a environment, say in the range from 5 to 10 degree centigrade. 5 to 10 degree centigrade. So this is some of the important points which I want to give under domestic applications. Of course, in the subsequent slides, I mean, fruits and vegetables, what is the storage, how much it can be, how long it can be stored, all those things and all, I will be explaining. Let us move on to the next one. Commercial refrigeration, as we know, in the retail store or shopping complex or malls and all, we can see the items are placed in different trays in different zones under refrigerated condition. I think it's not only limited to this retail stores and this one. There are plenty of applications, especially in the commercial sector. Next one is the industrial application. So before seeing this one, let me add this one. Suppose if you want to, this production of wine, beer, that is breweries. So those things also require a controlled environment, especially when we are going for production of beer or wine. It requires a fermentation process. Breweries. Like wine, beer, it requires fermentation process. Fermentation process is an exothermic reaction. So fermentation process is a exothermic reaction. Fermentation process is an exothermic reaction. So exothermic reaction is the reaction in which heat is released out. So in order to maintain the temperature, so obviously a controlled environment is required. So there we use refrigeration. And similarly, refrigeration is used for storing the concentrated fruit juices. concentrated fruit juices. Concentrated fruit juices. Concentrated fruit juices. So what happens is, like, these juices are, in order to maintain the quality, and also for easy transportation, it's better to have this one in a controlled environment, and this, when we have the main advantage of this concentrated fruit juices are, it can be stored for a quite longer time. It can be stored for a quite longer time. Now let us see the other industrial applications. Separation of gases. Separation of gases. Industrial. This is industrial. Separation of gases. Separation of gases. So this is an important. Takes place like in petrochemical industry. Petrochemical industry, where the separation of gases is done by fractional distillation. Where the separation of gases is done by fractional distillation. Fractional distillation. So one has to maintain a temperature of around minus 150 degree centigrade. So for that, refrigeration is. So this is one important application. Next one is condensation of gases. Condensation of gases. Some of the gases that are synthetically produced, like ammonia, what happened is they are condensed to liquid, before it is transported. So some gases are condensed to liquid so that it's easy for storage and transportation. So that it can be stored and transported easily. So one example is ammonia for this one. So this is one of the industrial application. Then dehumidification of air. Dehumidification of air. In pharmaceutical industry, and especially in applications where air liquefaction is required. So like pharmaceutical industry. In pharmaceutical industry and in air liquefaction plants. Liquefaction plants. We need air with less humidity. So dehumidification is the process of removing the moisture content from the air. It is opposite of humidification. So where the moisture content from the air is removed, moisture content from the air is removed. So what happened is, there's a term called dew point temperature. So it is the temperature at which or below which the moisture content in the air starts condensing. So once we remove this one below the dew point, so the air is dehumidified. So which is the requirement in case of pharmaceutical industry or for air liquefaction plant. storage as liquid at low pressure. Some of the gases, storage as liquid, storage as liquid at low pressure. Storage as liquid at low pressure. So what happens? Some gases has high saturation pressure at atmospheric condition, that is at room temperature. So such gases, for example, like natural gas, they are stored as liquid. They are stored as liquid at reduced pressure and reduced temperature. So natural gas is stored at around minus 130 degrees centigrade, low temperature, and pressure is say 0.7 to 0.75 bar. That is less than atmospheric. Less than atmospheric. Normally, the refrigerants are stored at high pressure, whereas gases like this natural gas, they are stored at a low pressure and temperature because the saturation pressure is high at room temperature. Removal of heat of reaction. Removal of heat of reaction. Heat of reaction. So under this industrial, this is one major application, A, B, C, D. This is E. Removal of heat of reaction. Some of the, suppose if you want to have good efficiency for a chemical reaction, it is better to have maintain a low temperature or a room condition. The room temperature or the ambient condition. So sometimes if the reaction is exothermic, obviously there will be heat generation. Heat is released outside. So in such cases, refrigeration is used. An example could be synthetic rubber. There is one more industrial application, recovery of solvents. Recovery of solvents. In many chemical processes, the solvents, it gets decomposed. Solvents get decomposed. So those solvents can be recovered after the reaction by refrigeration process at low temperature. To recover the solvents, to recover the decomposed solvents. So these are some important industrial applications. Whatever the applications points which I have mentioned, the applications are not limited only to these. I have just summarized very important applications from whether from domestic perspective or industrial perspective or commercial perspective, etc. Now coming to marine and transportation refrigeration, when the fisherman ventures into the sea to capture the fish, they use fishing boat, where mostly they use ice. Ice is used to, sometimes it will take, they may not return within a day or so. They may have to venture into the sea for 2-3 days or even for a week. So until they reach the land, whatever the fish that has been caught, it has to be preserved, it has to be stored. So normally for that it is used. There are vessels, refrigeration is used in vessels transporting perishable cargo. Then we have refrigerated storage, different types of storage, short-term storage or temporary storage. maybe when we say short-term or temporary storage, like storage of items in the cold storage, cold room. So it can be like when we say short-term storage for a week or a fortnight. Medium-term storage is also there, though it is not mentioned. It could be one, maybe for a month or two. Long-term storage, 6 months up to 1 year, and frozen storage. I will stop at this point. I will continue in the next lecture. Thank you.